I can see you. I was going to say, I can see you grabbing the jukebox back in the old Ryder locker room and throwing on Cashmere at the top. Bobby Jurison walking around with his headband. I can see it.
Guarantee you Bobby loved Zeppelin. Guaranteed he was on the playlist for Bobby Jurison, no question. But Immigrant Song takes me back even further because that was one that I crank getting ready even for college football games, like just blowing it up as loud as you could play it, and it just felt like it was getting your adrenaline rushing for a pregame song in your headset as you're walking around the field or whatever. You're just ready to go and knock somebody down. So yeah, it was. I wouldn't consider myself, Barney, a huge Zeppelin fan. I was sort of, more into R&B and even a lot of the Michael Jackson before he got all weird. And then, it kind of transferred to the Eagles and that kind of deal, and then into country music big time in the 90s. So, but Zeppelin was in there for sure. And it always was kind of around sports for me for Zeppelin.
Yeah, we talk pop culture, we talk music on the show. That's why people are loving it. And especially with you here, and I know your son and the ties to Nashville and everything, but Zeppelin was always weird for me. Once I figured it out when I got older, and I was like, oh, it's John Bonham. Yeah, like he basically vomited in his sleep and passed away. They never got back together really for a tour, like Queen, and then Adam Lambert singing Queen, and then although he didn't pass away, but Journey, and then they bring in the Filipino fellow and he sings. And I was like, they were just true to it. They were like, no, we're done. Like, John's not here. We are done.
Admirable, but it's something you admire about him. I'm sure that if it's not going to be the band that we put together, then let's not do it. And that I get, but if they would have just found somebody that could, well, you can't. Everybody is unique, but found someone that could play the songs and added that person to the band. The Eagles have done that with Vince Gill. Yeah, and his voice is it sounds great. I mean, him singing Eagles songs sounds awesome. So, they would have been selling out concerts like late into their. I mean, come on, that like I said, you don't have to be a big fan of some of these iconic bands to know that even when they're in their 70s. If they came back to town, you got to see it. It's like a must-see thing if you can afford it and all that, but you got to see it.
Def Leppard, U2. I'm not a big U2 fan, but I'd like to see them. We're talking bands. We're talking bands that, continued together. What a segue into the Riders. Trevor Harris and his band. Is he going to have the band together? He signs a one-year deal, Glenn. 100%. A lot of people, I said it was about 95% for me that he was going to come back. 1 year deal. Nothing about this surprises you?
No, nothing surprises me. And in fact, it is the first team decision by Trevor Harris for the 26th season. And he has put the entire franchise and his teammates ahead of himself in this decision to do it this early. I'm not surprised that he did it. I mean, I think we could all see the tea leaves were leaning that way, even when he was saying, I got to talk to my wife, my family, and see what we want to do. But you could tell that he wanted to play again. And, the question of if they won and if they lost, would that make a difference in what his decision was? If they lost, he'd for sure come back to try and get it done. If they won, would he walk away with the Grey Cup ring and being a champion, and that was his last game in pro football? It's kind of a romantic way, I guess, to walk away from the game, but don't do it if you're playing great. I mean, if you're playing at a high level, you're playing great, you've got your teammates and the coaching staff's trust, then continue with it. And that's why I think we were all kind of, I wouldn't say like not surprised at all that he signed, but the fact that he signed this quickly is a massive team decision. And I heard one of the callers or one of the people that text in say, it'd be interesting to see if he took a bit of a haircut so that he could bring in some of his teammates and maybe make the budget work in a better way for Jeremy O'Day. And I don't know the answer to that, but I will tell you that I bet he did. I bet he did by, just knowing Trevor Harris, first of all. Second of all, that he did it this quickly, because as soon as he is signed for another year, AJ Ouellette is automatic. That's an automatic now. He's got the same coaching staff, the same offensive coordinator, even though people have been knocking on the door for Mark Mueller. The discussion of Corey Mace even, no, all staying. You're going to see the same thing. You're going to see the same kind of standards. Everything that you completely understand and has made you a champion last year, you're coming back to. So now AJ Ouellette, Sam Emilus, I think maybe one of those Canadian receivers, you got a Joe there, you got Tommy Neal, you got Schaefer Baker, Sam Emilus, Picton. There may be, and I know Picton has said he's not going anywhere, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised if one of those guys ended up somewhere else.
I think that's fair. I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think AJ Ouellette's the next domino that they might do this strategically too on releasing what? Because we had a lot of people, and I would say it was a toss up between AJ Ouellette and Jamarcus Hardrick would be the next domino, is what we're calling it, to fall here. Some are saying it's Emilus. If they were going to announce the next one, or who's the next one to announce, who would you think, Glenn? Is it AJ?
I would think it's AJ. They lived together through the season. They're best friends. They goofed around after every win. They hang out together on the road, I'm sure. So you're talking about a guy who, and this was in an interview late in the year, Barney, with AJ. We didn't ask him this question specifically, but because it was before the West Final, and we didn't want to talk about retirement, things like that. So we didn't ask him the question, but he said, without being prompted, that he and Trevor had talked about getting it done now because who knows what happens in the future. Now, maybe that was just sort of brushstrokes of, we want to take care of business. Or maybe it was that they have discussed at length that, hey, if you come back, I'll come back. If you don't, then maybe we move on. So I think because of those kind of things, AJ Ouellette to me would be number one, and receivers number two.
And I think it was Paul on our text line too, got me thinking, thought about this when they announced that Regina is getting the Grey Cup in 2027. I was like, would there maybe be some 2-year deals out of this? Because the last thing we want is to have an inexperienced or a rookie looking ahead. We don't look ahead to next year, but I am looking ahead. Yeah. And I was like, that's real interesting. Maybe there was an option for some 2-year deals here. I guess at his age, you never want to, one by one, it makes a little bit more sense. But 2027 is a big year in Regina too. Yeah, it is. I think in this world that we live in 1-year deals, for sure Trevor would be going year to year. I bet you they didn't even talk about an extended deal because of his age. But even if you're a young player, relatively young, say in year 4 or 5, these 1-year contracts, which I hate, and I don't think they benefit the players like they think they do. The players think that this benefits them because they can have a big year and, bump up their pay. And that sounds great in principle. But when you have 200 free agents and 25 receivers, 10 of them are great starters, then how much more money are you going to make? Because how much bargaining power do you really have? So, I think that's where we are now with these 1-year deals. And
I don't think it benefits anybody, to be honest. That's a discussion for another day. But when you're talking about who does Trevor Harris influence more, his offensive line, which I know love him and respect him, and when you get a quarterback with the quickness and recognition and delivery that Trevor has, and your stat totals are down, that means you get, as an offensive lineman, more bonus money. If you have put in your contract that your quarterback is upright or whatever it is, and you have special deals in your contract, maybe there's more money for you up front. But for receivers, it's my best example here is Kenny Lawler. Kenny Lawler has the monster season in Winnipeg, he goes and then he goes back because he thought the grass was greener, the extra money looked good, had the big season. He signs on another team. He comes back the very next year because he goes, this is crazy. What I need is a top-tier quarterback, and then the rest will happen for the rest of me and my teammates. And that's what Sam Emlis is looking at now. And he's doing it well before free agency. Can you imagine if this went to end of January, and that's when, and we all would have said fine for Trevor to take that long. I mean, take as long as you need. But if he would have waited till end of January and then we're starting free agency, I mean, how many contracts, how many players would have said, well, you know what, I'm going to wait and see because I have a chance to possibly play with Bo Levi Mitchell if Trevor retires, or with Nathan Rourke if Trevor retires. And for a receiver, it's massive. One of the best, if not the best receiver, arguably one of the best in the league, is Kenny Lawler. And Kenny Lawler learned the lesson. The grass isn't always greener. And he had two good quarterbacks in the teams that he's played on.
What do you think the discussions are as far as a number two? Was Jake Mayer waiting for something to happen? Are the Riders, maybe looking at something else? Is it Jack Cohn's time?
Yeah, that's a good question because, first of all, if Jake would, first of all, I think we've had him on the show, and he loves Saskatchewan. He loves playing there, and he loves the locker room and the coaching staff. So that if you're looking at bringing him back, and they bring back Jake, it's a great insurance policy because you know what he's capable of. He has enough on his resume that you can win games with him, and they did this year. They kept that winning way going when he played a couple of games. So I know they weren't off the chart numbers that he put up, but he managed the ball well, he managed the team well, and got the wins. And so that you don't want to be too flippant about, well, we can do better than that. You've got an experienced backup quarterback in Jake Mayer right now. If you can get him back at the right number, that is a great insurance policy. Your third guy has got to be when Trevor Harris truly retires, that young guy's got to be ready to push Jake to a point of saying, you better be outstanding to win the starting job if Trevor leaves. And we might be talking about the Grey Cup year at that point. I'm not retiring Trevor after 26, but you may be because of his age.
Curtis Rourke.
Yeah.
2027. Let's start the rumor now.
Well, what's his name?
Elgersma.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Why do I always forget his name? It's probably that anyway. Elgersma. I mean, I know that there's still interest down there, but who knows? I mean, and who knows if he's going to be able to make the transition and play at the pro level in Canada. He's got to prove that too. Just because he's down there right now doesn't mean he knows it and can play at a high level, elite level in the Canadian Football League. It does not translate sometimes. We've seen many great players. Remember Vince Ferragamo?
Yeah.
Remember Vince? Coming off an MVP year in the NFL and went up to Montreal and just couldn't figure out the extra DB and kept throwing it to the wrong team.
We got a problem. Our guy can't figure out the extra player on the field. We got a major problem here. What is this? What do you think this means? And I was talking to Farhan earlier. We're going to replay that interview because it's great in hour one. We're going to have that here in the back half of this hour. But he says now he's kind of curious on Fajardo in Edmonton with this.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I just don't think that Trey Ford is going to be in their plan. I mean, Killam has made his declaration at quarterback between those two, and Fajardo's his guy. So can he be back there? I think he can. I think he wants to continue to play for sure. Starting from week one, what does that mean for Trey Ford? And is there a place where someone may give him? I don't think it'll be a starting opportunity, but is there a team that would say, come with us, keep learning for another year or two, and then we're going to give you an opportunity? And I still think physically he is a unicorn in a way that I've not seen in the game, either as a player or as a broadcaster. And if you could somehow harness that and then create this pro leader, not to say I'm not disparaging Trey, but all of the other aspects of being the guy that from accounts from other coaches and things that Trey is still learning. If he can get there, then athletically, I mean, I had a long conversation, Barney, about Trey Ford with Paul LaPolice in Winnipeg with his touch football team, the Olympic team. Nathan Rourke, Curtis Rourke are both guys that are names that he is interested in seeing if they're interested in playing. But Trey Ford is a flag football nightmare for defenses. Like, could you imagine him as the wing quarterback? You put him out, behind the starting quarterback
option,
but he's on. Yeah, and he's your second option. If the rush comes, you throw it out to him. He can still throw or run. I mean, he would be a flag football phenom. So
you want to know how much of a flag football nerd I am? It's December, and I've already started drawing up plays because I got 3 quarterbacks, 3 option guys.
So do you have the running type like the Trey Ford types, or do you have the Nathan Rourke types?
One can get on his REO Speedwagon and go. The other two are kind of more. They can run. You got to be athletic to play the game. Like flag football, you have to be somewhat athletic. But they're the shifty Trey Ford-ish. Like Lamar Jackson and right. that makes things a lot. That makes things really difficult. And then you put so much. There's so much. I think the second most important person on a flag football field, a lot of times, people would disagree with me, is the rusher. Because if you do have a shifty quarterback, then you take him out of the game with a rusher that's very agile and can keep him in contain or pull flags. So it's the Italians that I think a couple of years ago when Mason Nias and his team they were playing, the Italian quarterback was 6'7", and he took about 2 extra yards deep. So the rusher's got to run 2 extra yards, and this guy could throw it a mile. He wasn't running anywhere, but he was just so deadly accurate, right? So it's different. And then they say the Japanese run like a 3-quarterback system. So me, I could talk about this till 11 o'clock tonight.
Well, for me with flag or touch football, which was the same, and I played in the off season of my time in Saskatchewan every year, and that once you beat if a quarterback is like a Trey Ford type, or even a Nathan can run too. I mean he's not a strictly pocket passer, but if that quarterback beats the rusher comes at however many 5, 7, 9 yards sometimes to get to the quarterback initially, and then the quarterback beats him and now is wide open, you can't defend it.
No.
You just can't cover everybody for that long and have a quarterback, and then he can run for 30 yards because everyone's down the field.
In flag, you have to. So your quarterback, let's say it's Trey Ford standing back there at 7 yards. So 7-yard rusher bag, and then however yard you want to go back 7, so that's 14, right? That
Right.
he can't juke the rusher and then take off. There has to be an option play for him to be able to run. So that's where you see a guy come behind center quick and just pitch it back to the quarterback, because now that quarterback's live to run. And then it just opens up the whole can of worms. And yeah,
exactly. So there's lots of options there. And even if he's not running, if he's buying time and just running around and finding time to throw, that can take all day. And there's no way you can cover guys. There's going to be open receivers everywhere. So yeah, I mean it's interesting because we'll look at how many quarterbacks kind of shuffle around in Canadian football, but. Yeah. The first thing I thought of, Barney, when I saw the news that Trevor had signed was this is the ultimate teammate. It really is.
I think to your point, sorry to interrupt, but to your point there, I think it will come out. I will be shocked if he isn't taking a bit of a, so-called hometown discount to make it work for the rest of the guys, a la Tom Brady.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm almost certain, and I don't know this. I haven't talked to him yet, but I'm almost certain he would. He would make sure when Jeremy said, "Can we make this number work at X?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "You know what? Yes." And Jeremy would have been, I'm sure, open with him and saying stuff like, if we can get to this number, then Sam Emlis becomes a lot easier.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is what I mean about the timing for Trevor, and just this early for him is just, it's money for Jeremy O'Day. It's just like, he can make all those phone calls now. Hey, our guy's back. That's how he calls every free agent he has now. Hey, guess what? Our guy's back. If you haven't noticed, because you're down in Ohio or wherever you are, our guy's back. So we're going to take another run at this. What do you think?
T-Mobile is back. All right, buddy. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend. We'll see what happens. Maybe another domino falls tomorrow. We get to talk about it next week. Appreciate you. Have a good one.
Yeah, and anytime we want to talk X's and O's and flag, I'm in, man. I'm in. Let's do it.
How about I fly to Vancouver and we do that so I can golf? Let's plan something like that.
We'll go up Whistler. Play a little golf up Whistler.
Right on. Okay, next week, Glenn. Thanks so much.
Okay, buddy.